I'll call this work session of the mayor and council to order. Everyone is here. I'll first go over our regular business and public hearing agenda. We have the call to order, the invocation, announcements, pledge, and ceremonial matters. Then we have the minutes. I know there's been some emails back and forth on the minutes. Are there still concerns or questions?
Well, I have requested some updated minutes and I haven't seen them yet, so assuming that they're all corrected whenever I get them to look at them, we'll be able to go.
Thought they were sent out already.
They were sent out?
I saw them in an email I got to you.
If you did, I missed that one.
Were they not sent to all of us?
I haven't seen the corrected collected.
I haven't seen them.
They were both sent. But,
Back and forth.
yeah.
Do you want to look at them now, or?
Yeah, well,
Sometime.
yeah, work it in before.
Okay.
There weren't a whole lot of corrections left, so I'm hoping that everything's in
I
good
think
order.
the corrections that I saw that you sent to Ms. Richardson were changing yay and nay to favor and oppose. Is that
Mhm.
substantially correct?
Mhm. That was the
That was
majority
part
of
of
them.
it.
There were a few other,
And there was a few, the one thing about Megan Will and her recommendations. needed to
Right.
change.
that work
And then I
session,
sent one about Marcy Ferris.
Yes.
but I think that was the majority of.
All right, we have no invited guests. Tonight we'll have, Ms. Ferris will be here for a Board of Appeals report, Ms. McEnany for stat, Mr. Sanders to the city manager's report.
I just have one, announcement, specific announcement, for the benefit of the public, and right now for the benefit of the mayor and council, regarding Brian Arrington. Brian has a rare malady, that is very painful and very debilitating. That's why you have not seen him for the last week or so. Spoke to his doctor and got a note. He is going to try. Hopefully, he'll be back on Friday, this coming Friday. But I just wanted everybody to know, who usually see him at the events and expect just news briefs and information coming from his office, that he's trying to do some work from home, and it's just a very difficult situation right now, so please bear with us.
Also, I think at the last meeting, we had asked, and I haven't seen it yet, and I know you were working on it, an update on the RMAS. Have you been able to get any information on that?
We received a note from DOT, which was inconclusive at best. I've followed up with our program manager and do not have a specific number yet. They put numbers in there, but they were talking about mast arms. They could have been talking about mast arms, they could have been talking about signal bridges, they could have been talking about sign bridges. I've asked her to go back to her engineering department and give me an exact number, because I can't bring you a number unless I know what our savings is, what kind of a credit we're going to get from GDOT on those different types of facilities. So as soon as I have that, I will forward it to you.
On our public hearing agenda, we have a first reading on CUP 14-06, so I'll take a motion to waive that, place it on our November 10th agenda. Mr. Thompson, anything you need to tell us tonight about that? Anybody have anything to discuss? Then we have a second reading on CUP 14-05. Mr. Thompson?
This is the CUP for Mr. So to occupy, he's actually been owning it for several years now, but to occupy it, to do various and sundry automotive type businesses that require a CUP. It's kind of what came up in the past with the old Jiffy Lube or Castrol Oil. These small businesses want to move in and the site's not ready, and in order to come get the CUP, typically it's too much time, so they move on. So Mr. So is applying to bring the property up somewhat to code with the landscaping in the parking lot, and it's the old fire station building, just to bring it up to speed. Add some new spaces, add some landscaping, repaint the building, and then get some tenants in there to generate some revenue for him as well. There's several variances that are required in order to make that happen, and we recommend approval so we can get that property back in commerce. The specific uses are enumerated on the request as well. There's none that are obnoxious or anything that we'd be concerned about.
Did they address the gentleman that sent the letter with some of his concerns?
We addressed him and told him that most of those that he was concerned about were noise violations.
Right.
And that, of course, we let Mr. So know and
Right.
to monitor those, but don't feel like there's a need for a giant privacy fence or anything.
Okay.
HSB's in.
Well, we did reach out to him because.
We talked to him.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Mr. Thompson? Okay, any further discussion? Then we have the second reading on LUP 1403 and RZ 1404. We talked about this at our special call meeting. We'll make a motion to postpone to November 10th and to remand to the planning commission in the interim. Is that correct?
But I'm sorry, postpone to what date?
November 10th?
November
Is our
10th,
next
yeah.
meeting? Anybody got anything else about that? New business, we have the senior center contract.
I really don't have anything to add.
That question came up at the last work session about insurance and how we weren't gonna get paid, and that's why you weren't here, so we postponed it, so we could be reassured by you that you're on our own.
And don't think that we won't seek every option to get reimbursed from private or public sector, but right now, that's basically where we are, guys. It is, a lot of things happen over the course of construction, and this is where we find ourselves. I honestly believe this is the best fix and the best price that we're going to get. That's all I can.
That's largely because we saved so much money last time.
We're just recouping that savings
It
now.
only cost us 100 to save 50.
Okay, nomination for the Parks and Rec Board, Brittany and Susan, if you have any questions. Then we have the, radio lease.
We do. This is one of the major capital need with SPLOST money that PD has. These are mobiles and automobile, car radios, and the chief negotiated, I think, a very good price. You don't get brakes from Motorola, let's face it. And since it is, we are receiving the funds over 3 years, I went to the lease pool. Basically, they helped us out and negotiated, and we ended up with a 1.27% interest rate. So I just don't think you're gonna beat that, and I'm asking you to approve the resolution to enter into that lease tonight for the, I guess, 103 radios and TV to pay for them over 3 years.
And Chief, remind me again, when we had this conversation before, do we have any ability to recoup or anything with the older units coming out? Other police departments that are not gonna be up to standard for, I mean, do we have
There's a
any ability
possibility.
to do anything?
There is a possibility we can do that. We are not trading the ones in, so if we can find
Yeah, I
somebody.
remember you saying that, so, I mean, basically, they're gonna be ours. So, when do you expect installation to begin or to do you have to have them all, can you do it moving slowly with installing 4 or 5 a week, or, I mean, how do you?
No, they'll begin to do it from beginning to end. Once they get here, it'll be about 5 weeks at the most
Okay.
before they're here.
Will that interrupt our radio transmissions at all? Can we
No.
broadcast on both?
No, just, they'll take cars in 3 or 4 at a time, but
Right.
and then they'll have the portables issued immediately. So
Okay.
And installation is included in the cost, so.
Additional questions? Then we have the 3030 Hampton Ridge Way, we discussed previously in executive session. Are there any questions for the discussion?
this is on both the work session agenda and the regular session. I think it may be premature to actually have something to vote. You recall that we looked at two sets of specs last time. One of them was fairly impressive and according to a standard, but it was the higher bidder. That bid sheet was very detailed and totaled $24,000. The low bidder was in the $16,120 amount. I think that got adjusted slightly. That bid value included the termite inspection process. The low bidder, when we took a look at the bid, what we do know about them is that they're doing some other projects in the city as a contractor, and that is going fairly well. It's somebody that's not, somebody that the planning department hadn't seen their work. We ran into a difficulty of all of the entities that were listed under the name of the low bidder were either dissolved or inactive, about to be dissolved, including some of the ones that were under, actually doing work with the city with those entities. So it was another step. When you look at the contract, we put you in a position where you're ready to accept a bid if you choose to tonight. There are two key provisions in what is our form agreement that we use as a standard simple contract for the city. The first key ingredient is 1.5, which spells out that the contractor has to line up with the municipal court findings and the order under the nuisance action and comply with state law. We shift that burden to the contractor. And the second is that you got an indemnification provision at the very end that's pretty across the board. It's on the top of page 3 under paragraph 7, which again is a liability shifting that requires the contractor to indemnify the city, which are real important in this case because we're intruding into private property and we're doing work on a house that we do under the nuisance requirements. So it's got a little tricky edge to it. We pushing that over to another entity. And Jason and I were talking a little bit about it, and he said it's tricky because what if they do work and it's substandard to the house? Then the city, through their contractor, has impacted the house. The liabilities go to that. The only reason I'm bringing that all to your attention is that the entity that we contract with is what powers that indemnity. And we've had a couple of indicators now that we might not be in a solid ground with our low bidder.
But I thought council was not satisfied with the scope of work of the low bidder, we were looking at the high bidder. So what's the issue, I guess, with high bidder?
There's not any issue with high bidder. No. It's just that council. It's that the council has to make that call after being informed about it.
I guess my point is, why wouldn't we go forward? What's the hold up them going forward tonight?
No hold up as long as you're going forward in that direction. I don't think there's a problem with doing that as long as there's a finding concerning the low bidder of those issues that have been raised as being not conforming to the process.
And that explains the reason for moving to the high bid.
That's exactly right. That's it. Yes, sir. And that's council decision, it's not one I fill in without council's instruction. Now, the contract itself, is the work that was to be performed, the low bidder did sign off on, and this contract requires if they were to accept, it does require them to do the work according to a higher inspector. And that's what both did. So the description deficiency in the low bidders was, it didn't look good. It didn't look professional as the next highest bidder. But as a matter of course, he would have had to have bound himself to the scope of work according to our inspector. That was not a big, the bigger issues were now we've got entities that don't look appropriate.
Other questions for Tom?
So we just need to change the name of the contract.
It really doesn't have one. You just accept that.
Well, it says HFR.
I'm sorry, you're right,
And
yeah,
it's got an amount, so the amount will
Yeah.
be changed.
So I mean,
as well.
whatever is in here that's already been pre-plugged in needs to be unplugged.
it will be, yes.
Actually, can just make the motion for the mayor to execute the contract and name the bidder not to exceed the bid price. Okay, that brings us to our work session agenda. Do we have any correspondence to review? All of our commission reports?
Mayor asked at the last work session about SPLOST cases, where we're actually shifting the SPLOST designations. There are a lot of SPLOST cases. I didn't know exactly what the case was that we were looking for, but they're the most, I guess, precise is a Dickey versus Story, and it is a Supreme Court case, 2008. And in that case, the Board of Commissioners were found to have abused their discretion in voting to abandon a project that was SPLOST funded after they spent $2.5 million acquiring the site. So, you know, there's a standard where if you start a project and it's funded, you can't abandon that. It did say that the county commissioners did not abuse their discretion in purchasing a second site on which to build a softball complex with capital raised by SPLOST. In other words, they picked a different location than the original project, so they moved from one location to the other. Supreme Court says that's within the discretion of the elected officials to make that change. So if you abandon the project and use the money, you're in trouble. If you just move to a different site, you're not in trouble. There is a case that it says that within the parameters of the authorized referendum that, and this is a county case, Supreme Court again, county allocation of funds collected from increased sales and use tax was not inconsistent with terms of the referendum. So you're looking for your consistency for what your referendum says, which is usually by class, which is transportation, recreation, or capital expenditure. In this case, they made a change to the amount of funding, and it was found to be within their power to do so. You know, so if you're moving money from project to project, you're okay. If you do a referendum and you change from one class to the other, you're not okay.
So all I was looking for really was just a nod. This is where we want to put it, and I can use the broad categories in the budget for grant, and that's okay with everybody, I guess. My question goes back a few years now. How, since on the 05 and the 09, some categories were overspent and some were underspent, we need to make that correction. We need to move money. Is there anything in there that gives us direction on that? Can it be a mayor and council resolution, or is that the best way to do it if I present you budget numbers?
So these are previous year's expenditures where a class was underspent, there was money left over, and you're actually transitioning those funds. Let's look at that. Let's look at that specific. That was not dealt with
Okay,
in
not specifically in
these
any of
cases.
your research.
The closest one was that last case where you could move, but it required consistency with the classes that were originally advertised. They did have there was one case, and this might be the solution to what you're talking about. There was one case where the SPLOST actually overpaid, and it did become discretionary with the elected officials as to the allocation of those excess proceeds and how that was handled. So that may be.
Discussion items, an update on the ARC grant application.
Mayor and council, thank you. First, the redevelopment forum went very well. Nope, I'm going backwards.
That's fine. Good.
Yep. No, I'm start at the top. Start over. First with the LCI grant, just as some additional information, we have started preparing the application. Just a little history, we did the LCI in 2003, we did our comp plan in 2006, we did our town center plan in 2011. Last year we had UGA. Take a look at some things again, so I called that 2013-14. This would allow us to do a substantial, bringing all of that forward and putting all of those ideas together through the LCI grant. Its purpose is to update the LCI plan, and we could insert in that, update our town center plan and keep making it more relevant to where we are, today's environment today, being current. So that's the purpose of it. At their last DDA meeting, the DDA did approve being the submission group. The application can be submitted by the DDA or by the city, and we'll use them. There is up to a $250,000 pot that's available. Of that, $50,000 would be a match. Right now, I'm looking at applying for their full $200,000 piece, which means our match is $50,000, and then that's always, in my mind, a good way to get money if somebody else is paying for every one of mine. The application is due November 10th at noon. And I have made a slight oversight in calculation of dating things. It would be very helpful and beneficial to the application if mayor and council would approve a letter of recommendation and support, and I should have had that on the agenda, and I don't. So I don't have that. It could just be as easy as a verbal, if you would support mayor to sign a letter of that nature so we have it to go in the application, and I'll defer to the city manager's guidance on how we get that done. Before I move on to the second piece, any conversations in that for that?
Do we need to amend the agenda tonight, around the agenda? The letter's not been written, all you're looking for is a vote on whether we agree to support it.
It could just say support and submit the application, yeah.
I don't know if we necessarily need a vote. I routinely draft letters for grants. Ms. McKay or Ms. Richardson draft those, and the mayor has the authority to sign off on those. It doesn't really require a vote unless council wants to do a group letter.
It does. It just says support of mayor and council, so that's where I was starting. But yeah, you could draft it. Actually, the city manager could just draft it.
Get it to everybody.
But we were going for the highest point first and coming back down from there.
It's always better to have something from the.
And I would, it isn't an authority to make a grant application. Somebody's gonna have to certify that in that grant application that the mayor and council have approved it. There's gonna be a certification requirement that if you have it in your minutes, it'll.
Even if it's not coming from us, it's coming from the DDA?
Yeah, because, you know, they ultimately look to mayor and council for that approval.
So we should amend and
I
put
would
something
amend,
on tonight?
and just a motion to approve authorization for the mayor to sign support for the application.
And who's actually writing the application?
I am. It's a fairly simple application. That's fairly straightforward questions, and it really is just a ticket to get in the door. Then we'll find out whether they approve it or not, and then in January we'll actually negotiate a final price and the final activity. So even what's in the application isn't necessarily exactly what we will do. They'll come back and negotiate what the amount of money we get awarded and the details of what we do back, and then they put a contract together. All right, the redevelopment forum was a wonderful success. They actually ended up changing rooms and getting a larger room for that, so more people could attend. And rather than give a whole bunch, I'm just going to read or share with you a few of the comments that came kind of in my notes as I went through that. So some of the key things were we should be providing, or a community that wants to attract and do redevelopment, attract development, needs to be providing an array of choices, housing choices, transit choices, all of those recreational choices. All deals today are what they call public-private partnerships in one way or another. That's what's happening. Mr. Heller, who was one of the speakers, made several points, but to share a few of those. His first one is there is a war out there today on talent, and that speaks to our educational system that we use and the ways we support it, and he was encouraging that to happen. That is, in essence, one of the reasons why I engaged with South Gwinnett High School. If we had a college, as Lawrenceville does, I would be engaged with them. But to have a strong engagement with our local educational facilities allows us to provide that opportunity or vision to anybody coming in here that our educational system and we're working with it. A sense of place is strongly important. We've talked about the LCI grant, and I gave our history. That's a key for a sense of place. Millennials today want connectivity, so they want that in their electronic devices, they want it in walking, they want it in biking, they want it in transportation. The next one was, there's a need for speed. Communities need to have speed, and I mean that by broadband, not by our cars. We need to be well connected, and for those, if you're not of information, we have a very high, very fast band that goes down 78 from Atlanta east. So the community has access to that here. As far as I know, we've only got really one place that's accessed it so far, so we could continue to encourage that. Key factors that are looked at in a community to make it successful or to make it viable in the future are commute times and school systems. Was another time you said that. And we need to be looking at those things. Obviously, we're all aware of the traffic and commute times from our village to other places. Number 6 was walkability and housing choice, are key things that we need to keep in mind. The next one was green spaces are key. That's the connectivity and those options. The young folks today and those folks that are moving into communities want all those things. So the work that you're all doing on the park is a key piece of that. And those are good things that are done. 2 final comments. One was, and I could never decide which one of these to end on, so I'm going to end on a positive note, so I'll share the less positive one first. And that is, any community that is focusing only on automobile transportation or has only automobile transportation is going to suffer against other communities in the future. We must be looking at other opportunities, ways to reduce the commute, walkability, and all those things play into our town center plan and the LCI stuff we've been doing and what's going on now. So we're working that way, but I think it's important for us to keep in mind, because of where we are as a community, that we need to do everything we can to keep people looking here to be employed so their commutes are shorter, all those kinds of things. And then the final thing, which you've shown by that list I gave in the beginning, is the key factor is vision, 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 and the sustaining of that vision for years to make sure we keep moving forward. And you've shown that. That's why I wanted to share that date at the beginning. Since 2003, we've been clunking along, keeping with it. So several of you had the opportunity to attend the redevelopment forum. I appreciate that, and thank you for spending your time. I hope that you found it really valuable, and if you have things you want to see in next year's, I'm on the group that plans that every year. Drop me an email, and I'll make it part of next year's.
Very enlightening.
Yeah, that's really good.
It really was. It was probably better than a couple of years past. I mean, it really was. The energy was high. I mean, everybody seemed very, very positive. So, you know, I don't know so much about the innovation part of it. It's just things we need to do.
Discussion on policy change on meeting minutes, November?
Yes, I was out at a function a couple weeks ago and was talking with an official from another local municipality, and he had seen some of the issue, I guess, I don't know where it's been, like in the news or something about the minutes issue, and he was just telling me how they did it in their city, which is that whenever they have a business meeting, 2 days later, they get a copy of the minutes emailed to them. The clerk goes ahead and writes up the minutes and emails them out so that everybody's got them 2 days after the meeting's happened. It's still fresh, everybody can take a look at it. That way, if there are any corrections or any adjustments that need to be made, those can just be emailed in. The clerk's still got a week and a half to make any adjustments before the minutes are published. The way we've always done it here is that we don't see the minutes until the agenda's already published. So if there are any corrections or anything, then, you know, we really only have, you know, if I don't look at the packet until Saturday and read through everything, the clerk's not there on the weekend, you know, it pushes them to have to get more stuff done on the Monday before a council meeting. So I just wanted to bring it up and let everybody know that that was the way they did things, and it seemed to work really well for them. So I wanted to see if there was any interest in us doing that.
Our minutes are actually online within 2 days. I think state law requires that. That's the red minutes you see on the city website. Until they become to approval for the council, they are clear as not red. I don't think it would be a problem for the city clerk.
Instead of email those. I think that would be great.
So we
You're
can
doing them
go.
anyway, yeah. And in that way, we don't have to think about that.
Okay. Update on right-of-way maintenance, Mr. Sanders.
Gay and her folks have been out looking at several different areas, and I think this is probably what you were getting at, this issue. And obviously we have two major problem areas that we don't feel like are being maintained as well as they could. The Highway 124 median.
They're maintained by the county, not us.
That's correct, absolutely. And I mean, these are county maintained roads according to the SDS agreement. Highway 124 going on a major entrance into the city coming from the north. Presidential Circle and Tree Lane. We've spoken to them about that before. Gay, you put alongside at Women's Pavilion, Tree Lane area. I guess that's the continuation there. Okay. Really the whole medical complex area, I guess. Rockdale Circle, another county maintained road. They've done a great job with the resurfacing out there, but the landscaping maintenance is lacking. Forest Road at 124, I guess the turning radius is there on the corner. Lenore Church Road, Springdale Road at Pate. There are several areas of Springdale that go in and out, and there are issues there. And then for special occasions, Henry Clower Boulevard, we just need a better schedule. I'm going to have a chance to talk to Mr. Hunter and Commissioner Brooks tomorrow. I'll bring these up, and maybe we can get some help there.
I've had 2 conversations with Commissioner Hunter about it. He's assured me if we email him those addresses that he will take the next step and make sure that we get results on it. He assured me that.
There's a change in leadership going on in DOT. We've had some conversations there, and I just I have to be optimistic that we will get some attention.
I think we're at the season where it's really not going to need any upkeep for several months now. I guess my concern is I don't want this to be something that we don't take any action and it becomes springtime and we're back in the same situation. It's time to start taking action again. It's summer and it has looked like crap for all those months. So just if we can have a plan in place, and if we need to say, okay, we've taken these steps, but if the county doesn't step up, then we're going to have to spend X amount of dollars to keep this up.
Well, and it just seems to me we utilize prison crews, and they do also, but not here. And so I think that's something that they can address fairly easily. We'll let it be known, and we'll try to seek something in writing for everybody.
Update on 2410 Wisteria Drive, Mr. Powell?
I think Jason had gotten some information today. He sent over to me the Loki company, which is again our company that does the estimates, the descriptions of the work that's necessary, and where to bring them.
I did get a call today from Chad Smith with New Bethel Church, and he stated that they were going to submit the rezoning application. So hopefully it should be in the next couple of weeks, and then that'll be their problem, and they'll have to take care of it before we can release the lien. So I would just advise that we wait a little bit longer until see if that's actually going to happen again this time before we go and get bids and then contract.
Is it a different group than that?
No, it is. Pastor Heyman is actually moving into Fountain Square. This is a different group. It's the same one that showed interest, but I guess finally they got their numbers right, so they're ready to put it under contract.
And what you're saying is, in order for us to release the lien, this has got to be done
Right. The only other way
before they move in?
Correct. Or the only other way to do it, because the owner has cash flow problems, obviously, is to have them
Well, it's not rented, I understand that.
set the
That's a real simple one for me.
set the money aside that for those repairs in an escrow account and allow the property to transfer. And then if the new owner does not enter in and complete the work, then we can execute.
Yeah, whatever protection we gotta make based on
I
the
think
promise.
that's the best way to go. I think it's gonna get done this time. Say for 100% certainty.
Our normal step would be to get permission to bid, with that list you're looking at, just like we did with 33rd. And so that y'all don't have to be burdened with it. This possibility of transactions happened a couple of times before. If we could just leave it with Jason's credit, if they don't get the responses they expect, and move forward.
Well, and again, rather than leaving it out somewhat in a vacuum somewhere, let's try to, as best you can perhaps, pin a date. Say, you know, here's the drop dead date for, you know, when y'all need to make a decision, or, you know, and if we just leave it open-ended, then it stays open-ended. If we have to put a red flag and kind of stake in the ground on a certain date that we need to move forward.
We've got a deadline to get in for the next planning commission meeting, so I don't really know how we.
Well, and if that helps them with inspiration, that's fine too. I'm just saying, whatever we need to do, because this, we need to do this. Something's got to be done.
And then it's an
Let's get
ongoing
moving.
maintenance issue
Right.
too. If we don't
Well,
get
it's just gonna get worse.
What's the situation with the pool? Because it just says here, drain pool. So now you have a drain pool, which is also a nuisance and a potential liability. We don't require them to fill it in or do something else. Does the city have any liability there, or is that strictly private property?
It's the liability's worse with the current condition. So draining it would be an improvement, significant improvement.
I think anything we do to get the water out of it. And the fence, I think, at that point takes, because somebody's got to go through a barricaded area to get through it. So I think we're better shape without the water. But I'm with you. If we pour concrete in it, we're better too. But yeah, I mean, we can get better.
And I assume with that review is that the pool is functional. You know, it is a pool that could operate and without repair, so it gives value to, you know, if not, I think your inspector would have said this is inoperable or damaged beyond repair, so that's probably where the instruction comes from. So that y'all know, I hand those things out, I don't get to take credit, you know, it's Jason's staff that does all this. Once we get the orders from the municipal court, your city staff takes care of these things. So it's really good, they're really very capable, good system.
3030, we don't have any further discussion, right? Local government risk management services, Mr. Sanders.
I want to pass out a letter that we received from the local government risk management folks. These are the folks who work with GERMA, with property and liability clients, and spoken with Mr. Shields, and he basically has reiterated some long-term items that have not been addressed, and some shorter-term, more recent items. I've gone over all of these with him, and we will have a response to Mr. Shields in the next week or so. He said he was going to make a second trip back. There were a couple of items on here that I needed some clarification on, and he says he does. He goes into a lot more detail initially, and then he's willing to talk about several items. Some of this, like the motor vehicle records, the annual running of those MVRs, that's something that they have a legal, you might need some legal background on. So Mr. Shields knows where we're coming from. He knows they're being addressed. Lisa has addressed a couple already, and I will send you a copy of our response when I have one more conversation with him to make sure that we've responded to everything that he wants. I think the chief had to leave. He has to take, the reason Steve is coming back, he didn't have a chance to go to PD on his last visit here. We had another issue that took up a lot of his time, so he has to include that review in his report. But I'm glad to see some of the older items that we need to address, and we will do so. Because it does play into our fees or our premium when it comes to our property and liability. Please take a look and give me a call on any of these.
Appointment of an election superintendent, Mr. Ritz.
Yeah, I just think this is something we need to get on our calendar. We have a year now before this election. We're gonna have to get a superintendent in place, make sure they're trained or at least start looking for something.
It's, on the code, in the code section, it's the city clerk by default, so are you suggesting it not be the city clerk anymore?
Yes, I'm thinking.
Is there a reason for that?
I don't think Ms. Richardson's ever had any experiences in elections, and instead just think that in a municipal election, you should have someone with experience in that, holding that position. But I certainly think that Ms. Richardson perhaps should be on that committee, if you do it by committee, so she can learn that, so the next time we have it 2 years from now, she'll be up to speed on it, but without her having it.
Have you asked Ms. Richardson about her experience or
I've read
training?
her CV.
Did you know what training she's gone to as far as election training? Have you asked her about that?
No.
You're just assuming she hasn't had any.
No, I'm assuming that I am assuming that she's never partaken in an election previously by her CV. If she had done that, she failed to list it on her CV. And I don't think even the training that someone who's never dealt with municipal elections should be a superintendent of elections without ever having gone through another previous election. That's my point.
Ms. Arnold went through previous elections without having been,
Only once.
okay. Well, this would be only ones for Ms. Richardson
Well, no,
as
she
well.
was on Sharon Lowry was a
I
superintendent.
got you, Mr. Woods, okay.
Well, no, let's straighten that out. Melissa Arnold worked under Sharon Lowry in the election before she
Do
took
you know if
over.
Ms. Richardson has worked under anybody?
If Ms. Richardson didn't put it on her CV, she
Okay, but
has.
you haven't bothered to ask her, you just jumped to conclusions about her training and experiences like you did
It
before
wasn't
with
on
city
her
treasurer, right?
Resume.
All right. Anybody want anything else on the election superintendent? We'll have to put it on an agenda and make a resolution at the appropriate time if there's someone you want to appoint other than the city clerk.
I think that I don't know anybody I want to appoint. I think that the mayor and council needs to investigate the availability and give staff direction or the city attorney or someone to find
The
out.
law says the governing authority makes an appointment or else it's the city clerk. I'm not going to appoint a committee to investigate it or anything else, but I have confidence in our city clerk. If the council wants to do a resolution appointing someone else as the governing authority, you can put it on the council agenda and approve that resolution. Otherwise, by state law, it stays the city clerk.
So be it. The governing authority of the city of Snellville
So we'll investigate.
is,
We'll make a
so this, the governing authority, all of us.
City manager update on the GERMA opinion. I asked this to be put on there. I think several months ago you were going to talk to GERMA about the ADA and never heard anything back.
We've talked to the attorney who, or the firm that handles those, and I know this is a wider issue than just yours, Mr. Blankenship, and I'm not going to get an answer. I'm not going to get anything in writing from an attorney at this point in time. So what I've done is reached out to our senior claims adjuster, who I think everybody knows here, Ken Swanson. 30-year employee.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, we really know it.
Yeah, right. 30-year employee there, and I have sent him everything that, all our meetings, Mr. Blankenship, the chronology, and I've asked him, I said, I need something in writing. And we may, if possible, he said he may come here and we could meet and you can flesh out everything add anything that you would like to add. And because I think Mr. Blankenship is the immediate issue that's involved here, but it does have there is a larger application. So I think Mr. Swanson will with his experience, he will be able to get us something in writing, whether or not we are in compliance, what we have to do to become compliant, and then we'll just have to go from there.
You're not saying you're getting the opinion from Mr. Swanson, you're saying that he would get an opinion from someone or some entity for us.
That, well, based on his experience and us being their client.
Right, but Mr. Swanson's not necessarily an ABA experience, he's just he's a claims adjuster.
He's not an attorney, he has a lot of ADA experience, and he would run it by, where I'm not gonna get anything in writing from a GERMA attorney, from Ellery Thompson. I've given up trying to get that, but Mr. Swanson, I think, can get information that he can put into a letter that will give us some guidance.
I understand that. I guess the information he's getting is going to come from other resources other than himself. I mean, I wouldn't legally rely on an insurance adjuster if I were to go to court and complain and say, hey, my insurance adjuster said we're ADA compliant. That doesn't hold any water.
He'll give us the benefit of his experience plus his conversations.
Question. Mention my name. I have a right to ask a question, right?
Go ahead, Mr. Blankenship.
Okay. I have brought up more than one item on May 7th. I brought up a whole bunch of items for the whole city. Doors, bathrooms, parks, bridges.
And that's why I'm saying that's right. There's a wider application than just hearing impairment.
That's what I've asked. That's what I've been calling for 18 months. Well, more than that. Number two, why haven't you wrote ADA and asked them to come into the city and inspect the city and see what we haven't done? And they would do that for you.
I pay a premium to an insurance company, and I want to make sure that that I start there.
But and back,
and they can tell me.
You start with ADA.
I hope they will tell me if the Justice Department needs to come in and do any type of review, or are we at that level of risk?
If you go across the street to the Bank of America, there you'll see they're doing 26 stores under ADA that they came in and helped them. But they asked, they got an answer. And they're doing over $100,000 just on walkways. And deaths, which we don't have in here for paying. So it's not just one issue that I brought up, it's the completely ADA that Americans with Disability Act, that this council has failed to do anything since January of 2013.
And so you're gonna set up a meeting with Mr. Swanson, yourself, and Mr. Blankenship?
I'm saying it might get to that point. I'm gonna get Mr. Swanson's response.
Okay.
Mr. Blankenship, have you tried the closed caption on the ADA, or on our meetings?
What's the question, sir?
So have you tried the closed caption on our meetings where you can watch the words underneath the screen as it's being seen on our video?
I cannot read them that fast, sir, because I have, huh?
You can stop them wherever you want.
Yeah, but you mean during the meeting?
No. When it's on the, when it's on YouTube, when it's posted on the city website.
I can't read it that fast.
You don't have to read that fast, you can stop it.
Yeah, but that's not the ADA regulations. The ADA don't say I have to go to the TV. The TV says, the ADA says that you as a council, you as a...
I apologize.
Okay.
I thought your concern was the fact that you want to know what's going on.
I do, sir. Let me finish my statement, okay? Or do you want to interrupt me again like you've done before? It's up to the city. It's up to the county. It's up to the state. Even the church has to go by the same ADA regulation. And y'all have failed to even try to do one regulation or even talk to me about an ADA. We've been having a meeting, and it started in January 2 years ago. Well, be close to January, this should be 2 years. So the city needs to do something, and they do have where you can write ADA and get an answer. And they'll say, we'll either look at it or not, as a city.
So when can we expect a response from Mr. Swanson?
I would think 2 or 3 weeks.
So if we put this on our November 10th agenda for an
I'll give you
update,
an update.
and then at that time, if you need to set up a meeting with Mr. Blankenship, you should know?
I'll give you an update.
But I still need an ADA representative, not an infant policy man.
Well, let's see what information Mr. Sanders gets us, and we'll take it one step at a time. Discussion on the solicitation ordinance, Ms. Kraus.
It's written, it's long overdue. Council has a copy of it. I haven't heard anything one way or the other. I need to get some input. I'm good with it. I like it just the way it is. I think it covers everything. And ask the city attorney if he has any comments. If there aren't any in the next 2 weeks, then I'd like to put it on the agenda for a vote. I'd also like it to be absorbed by the public in the next 2 weeks or so. I really would like them to get into it and read it and get back to me. And, you know, they can dissect it, murder it, amend it, whatever they want to do, but I need some input. Tony?
It probably should be characterized as a deregulation ordinance, because there are so many things that are regulated in the sections that are being deleted. Burglar alarm, security, escort, lock and key, all of those things are coming out from under the current code sections that require some special permitting. Some of them need to be undone because they're already state regulated, where we've been it's targeted at residential areas, not commercial areas. It allows both individual homeowners and communities to post so that soliciting is not allowed if they choose to. So there's a freedom to stop salespeople from soliciting altogether. It's got some exemptions that are really clear, a couple of places, but the most dramatic is in Part G on page 5. This doesn't apply to religious, nonprofit, charitable, or political activities. It doesn't apply to nonprofit organizations, school groups, or civic organizations. And if somebody invites somebody to their premises, it doesn't apply to that. It does give an encouragement under paragraph 4 of the exemptions that even though an exempted person doesn't have to qualify, they're encouraged to optionally complete the requirements in this section to receive advice from the police department. Because when you're doing soliciting as a nonprofit organization, the police department has special information that can protect the kids in the process. So it was, even though they're not required to do it, it was encouraged that they do so. The hours are 9 p.m. Let's see, between hours of 9 p.m. during daylight savings time and 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time to 9 a.m. Those were really the highlights of it. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Powell? If we could put it on, I guess, on the front page of the city website. Citizen input. They'll take a first and second reading, right? So if council has any suggestions, it'll be on the next
Great,
agenda.
thank you.
Parliamentary update. We only have 5 minutes, and we still need an exec session. So do you have anything pressing you need to tell us tonight?
That's not really pressing. If you want to wait till next,
Until next meeting?
well, I won't be here next meeting, and we'll have to wait for any month.
Is that okay with everybody? Update on the city website?
And we'll just put that up. I just want to see if anybody's had any time looking at it.
Okay. Then that's the end of our agenda. We're going to have a exec session.